The term postmodernism generally signifies a break with modernism. Unlike postcolonialism, which signifies more a kind of continuation of colonialism in a different form. However, this definition of postmodernism is not agreed to by all. A few thinkers would like to consider postmodernism as a very heightened or high form of modernism only, but not all who consider postmodernism as a kind of anti modern position. Possibly, this view is more relevant and acceptable. For the benefit of students and common viewers, I would like to talk about three or four general features of postmodernism and then highlight how these are different from modernism. First of all, postmodernism is highly suspicious of categories like science, rationality, objectivity, etc., which seem to be the hallmark of modernism. To elaborate it, let us look at it this way. When in India we started the project of modernizing ourselves, starting from the Indian Renaissance, what was the hallmark of that modernization conceptually? For common people, of course, modernization was and even now is wearing European dress or goggles, etc. But conceptually, rationality or rationalism or reason, it was the ultimate weapon of modernization or modernism. In fact, this was so in Europe also. So, this is a legacy of the Enlightenment. Man as the rational being. So, it was carried to its height during modernism or in the philosophy of modernism. The to be modern is to resist the so called traditional faith, beliefs, superstitions, etc. Darwin, in a way, became one of the significant markers of modernist philosophy, who almost, in a way, killed the divine origin of human beings and any other beings, etc. So, to be modern is, in brief, to be rational. To the contrary, postmodernism hardly has any faith on this kind of rationalism or rationality. One of the three prominent trinity of postmodernism are Foucault, Lacan, and Derrida. Just a side note, some people are, have this kind of OCD of separating postmodernism from post-structuralism, reserving postmodern from art and literature, and post-structuralism for ontology, epistemology, linguistic theory, etc. This is not very useful today. We are comfortable, or we should be comfortable, using postmodernism as the umbrella term for all these things. So, Michel Foucault, for instance, is a born enemy of rationality, we can say, because we have to look at it from the point of view of the others of rationality. So, he showed, for example, how people were constructed as mad and incarcerated in madhouses beginning in the 18th century. So, he is not the only person to do so. You know, when we come to Lacan, for example, here of course Freud is there at the background. So here we have to revise our thesis of modern and postmodern being very different. Anyway, Lacan carried Freud to a greater position and then elaborated on it further and showed how we are not a coherent subject or coherent being who have full agency, determining everything based on rational choice. Unconscious is the main thing. And unconscious is structured like a language, he said repeatedly. One of the implied meanings is that, with due respect to anthropocentrism again, a cow cannot have unconscious. because it doesn't have a language. The unconscious is a product of the language. If you read Laka between the lines, that is the meaning. So one thing is that this is the prime difference, as I have explained till now, that is rejection of rationality, which was the hallmark of modernist discourse, which in its turn was a legacy of the Enlightenment discourse, which in its turn again came into being due to Renaissance. There is a continuum: Renaissance, Enlightenment, then modernism. And not only mad or the lunatic look at the colonized. You will, I have repeatedly told in my class how these were colonizations were also byproducts of Renaissance exploration and enlightenment. So to what extent will you celebrate Renaissance, enlightenment, etc., which we generally think to be liberating, emancipatory? And here somehow postmodernism and postcolonialism, they merge to a great extent. So postmodernism is highly suspicious of the full faith of the modernist philosophy or modernist scientific philosophy on the emancipatory and liberating discourses of modernism, like enlightenment, even like Renaissance, all this. Second is, as I have hinted at, Lacan's theory, and going back to Lacan's guru Freud. Freud only in West killed us as unified human beings. We are not at all a coherent subject as we are a self or subject. Self was used earlier in Freud. With with Derrida and Lacan, we are more comfortable in using the term subject, because we are subject to the discourses of power, subject to change. So id, ego, superego, Freud, the precursor. With this, he showed how we are a cracked being inside, psychologically, all of us, and there is a constant war between or among all this, especially between id and superego. So we are not coherent. Third thing is questioning the very basis of knowledge itself, which is in sync with the first point, rationalism. But here not only rational but all knowledge. Two major attacks came from two persons, a teacher and a student. Foucault, the teacher; Derrida, the student. Many do not know it. Derrida was Foucault's pupil actually at École de Normale, the famous institution of France. Now, Derrida showed in his 1966 seminar lecture at Johns Hopkins University titled Structure, Sign and Play in the Discourse of the Human Sciences that the very basis of our knowledge, which is language, is itself unstable. Here again, like Lacan has his precursor in Freud, Derrida has his precursor in Ferdinand de Saussure. And somewhere Nietzsche is there at the back anyway, but immediate precursor is Saussure. Saussure showed that meaning is possible by difference. That is, the word apple does not have any intrinsic relation to the thing we signify by apple, apple, but because it doesn't refer to mango, it does not refer to pumpkin, it refers to apple. So language is self-referential, not referential. Had it been so, it is my illustration, then the words would have been common for a thing across all languages. So that is a proof of Saussure and Derrida's contention that language is arbitrary. Along with that, Derrida added the concept of deferment. How do you explain something in language? By using some other sets of words. Look at a dictionary. What is a rat? Maybe defined, it may have been defined in the dictionary as four-footed tiny mammal. For example, I am saying now each of these words, four, footed, tiny, mammal. What are these? Again, look at the subsequent entries, you will get another set of words. So finally, there is no link between signifier and signified. All the signifiers are playing among themselves. So it is like Hamlet's statement when he was asked by Polonius, "What are you reading?" So words, my lord. So uh, secondly, sorry, this one is well taken. Then secondly, Foucault, the teacher, showed how power is knowledge. Some of it I have already discussed earlier, how the French administration and government constituted the category of madness at a particular point of time to show that some people actually were mad by power, by force, etc. So, a very another very important finding of Foucault is that, especially important for queer theory, but for all of us, for understanding our sexualities, because the belief in cultural and critical theory is that sexuality is one of the prime basis of our makeup. Freud also believed that. Anyway, so the act of sodomy, that is man to man sex, or any other kind of non heterosexual, non penetrative sex, was just an act, though aberrant, act earlier. Now, starting beginning in the 19th century, the sodomite became a personality trait. Homosexual. Is the person a homosexual or heterosexual? So, as Foucault says, that sodomy was an act. The homosexual became a species. So again, otherization. Knowledge is that is not constant. Whatever group is in power, according to its interest, it packages sort of information and ideology. These are related to the concept of ideology of Marxism. All these have been some kind of a Marxist, Foucault, Derrida and all. Derrida has written a book, Spectres of Marx, though Foucault has expressed dissatisfaction at Marx also, because Marxism again finally falls prey to that emancipatory liberating discourse of modernism. Anyway, but apart from that, Marx was one of the first persons to show resistance to the given orders of knowledge of society in the modern going against the grain, which is common to all these post structuralists. So anyway, so Foucault shows that power is knowledge. There is no neutral or innocent knowledge as such. As I told in my another video of mine, you know, that up to a particular point of time, for example, British rule was legal in India. That was legal. Now British rule is illegal. So nothing is fixed even in law. Or adultery was illegal till a particular point of time. Since 2018, I think it's no longer illegal. So that means knowledge alone, not at one point of time, people believed that the sun moved round the earth. Till date, also many believe. But postmodernism will back them up somehow. Here lies the problem. So it is counterfactual. But anyway, and now we know after Copernicus and all, a lot of struggle, that is the earth which moves around the sun. But till date, there are people, especially belonging to fundamentalist groups, who claim that no, the earth is flat. Otherwise, how can we go? And earth is static. Otherwise, they argue that if we start by plane from one place, we will not reach in our destination. Something like that will slip away from us. Strange logic. Anyway, so these are there. But anyway, what I wanted to say is that knowledge changes, but knowledge also changes, as Foucault argued, because it's not innocent, because it helps the purpose of some people in power. It may not be so much applicable to scientific knowledge, but to sociology, humanities, medical, etc., which are also controlling mechanisms. That there was another person, Thomas Kuhn, who gave the concept of paradigm shift. It relates to our first point, discourse of science. He said that even scientific knowledge is subjective, which will create a controversy. I know especially science students will not like that. But look at it this way, So water is the combination of hydrogen and oxygen. That is the ultimate truth for us now, objective truth. But it was not like that, say maybe 200, 300 years ago. Even now, it is possible that in some other planet or somewhere or in some point in future, this will also change. So scientific truths are also meaningful within a discursive field. That water equal to H2 plus O2 is basically meaningful in the register of chemistry, not in general. So Thomas Kuhn says that this is the paradigm, and when one kind of paradigm leaves and another comes, that is called paradigmatic shift. He was talking basically about transition from Newtonian physics to post-Newtonian physics, and this has influenced postmodernism, Kuhn's concept of paradigm shift. Even Einstein's theory of relativity in general, everything is relative. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, then Einstein's relativity and Kuhn's concept of paradigm shift also had important impact on postmodernist philosophy in their debunking the faith in knowledge along with Foucault and Derrida and Lacan. But the later three influences are often not spoken about in our humanities department, but you may make further excavations and find out. So, this actually I wanted to be the basic points. So, to repeat, the kind of lack of faith in the emancipatory and liberating discourses of modernism, the first point. Second is questioning of the subject or the self itself as a coherent being with an agency. Agency is the ability to do an intentional act. And third point is this foundation of entire knowledge system is shaken. So we can call it also anti-foundationalism. Or everything in our knowledge before postmodernist came was based on secure roots. Of course, here I again must say these things have been there in Indian philosophy for a long time, not in Western, not so much. But here again, I am not making claims like flights were there with Ravan and all that, not that. But in philosophy, this kind of, you know, negation of faith in word etc. was there in India. In the Western tradition, we have in the say in the Bible, in the beginning the word was there, word was with God. God, that is logocentrism. God is word. In the Indian tradition, we have both the philosophy. In the philosophy of Nam or mantra, this word is God, and in the philosophy of Vedanta, God or the absolute is beyond word, speech, mind, everything. Speech cannot get him. So yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saho anand brahmano vidvan na vivheti kutaschana. So from where speech returns along with mind, not getting him to know that Brahman, that absolute, after knowing that absolute, you become fearless, you become one. So that kind of idea. So we had both the ideas, that signifier and signified is one in case of the absolute, and then signifier and signified is very different again in case of absolute and even in general. Bimal Krishna Motilal has the famous Indian philosopher who taught at Oxford, has a book on this. Buddhism also, there is a kind of this Derridian, or rather Derrida we can say is a Buddhist. He has taken lessons in Indian philosophy, it is believed, from Professor Mohanty at Oxford. Anyway, Buddhist tradition, there is a thing called apoha. Apoha, that is defining a thing by difference, not by essence. So, what is a cow? Is a four-footed domestic animal. That is our definition, essentialist, which Derrida has problem with. So, the Buddhist Apoha definition is a cow is that which is not a non-cow. It sounds puzzling, but that is Apoha. So, we have some roots like this, anti-foundational. Just I wanted to bring before you. So, by and large, postmodernism thus is very different, quite radically different from modernism. However, there could be counter arguments that in case of poems like T.S. Eliot's Wasteland and even some other proof rock, uh, at least one point of postmodernism is very much present, that is a fragmented self. Do you see nothing? Do you hear nothing? Do you remember nothing? Etc. etc. However, not all the, at least they were not suspicious about the uh, potentialities of language. That language itself was spurious, as Derrida would suggest, and even Foucault. So these things we have to remember. So there have been a strong allegation of complicity with capitalist philosophy against postmodernism. That also you have to remember. That is, when you say that nothing is meaningful, everything is transient, everything is a construct. So what happens is that then you need not do anything. You go along with the flow in society. So people like Frederick Jameson has called that postmodernism is the cultural logic of late capitalism. So postmodernists themselves are in a way supporting capitalist agenda. It is like Said's allegation against Marx of being Eurocentric. So Terry Eggleton also has written on the illusions of postmodernism. Pros and cons are there. Anyway, the challenge to postmodernism in a way came from post-colonialism, though it borrowed some of its rhetoric. Neo-pragmatism and the ethical turn, where Emmanuel Levinas, contemporary with Derrida and Foucault, is very important. Ethics of otherness. If postmodernism virtually signals that otherness of ethics, ethics is otherized because ethics is also a construct. So why should we bother? Theoretically, at least, though we are to the best of our knowledge, Derrida and Foucault and all, in spite of their theories, they did not do anything unethical, rather, they were preaching for ethics. But theoretically, it is possible to argue that postmodernism otherizes ethics, and people with lesser understanding may behave so unethically. So, Emmanuel Levinas brought in ethics, Said's concept of worldliness of text, again a counter to Derrida. So all these points are there. I think I request to my students of both second sem and fourth sem, this particular video you watch repeatedly. I have tried to simplify as much as I can because post-structuralism or postmodernism is a vantage point from where we take off today. Whether it is in queer theory or Marxist theory or feminism, post is everywhere. That's why you have post-feminism, post-Marxism, even post-humanism. But what is the post? Basically that is from postmodernism and post-structuralism, and its basic arguments I have analyzed here, you know, as I said, in as simple language as I could. And thank you. Good night.